Good morning, everyone. I think we should get started. We probably all would like to get on with our day, but I'd like to call the August 24th annual meeting to order. And Donna and Sonia, can you confirm we do have a quorum? We do. All right, so we do have a quorum. I'd like to ask Pastor Jeff to start us with a prayer.
All right, here I am. Thank you, Dwayne. So thanks for coming back again today, and just want to give thanks to Dwayne as well as Sonia and Lynn and all the staff really for helping put together this document that you received to answer your questions from last week, and also to give more, I guess, purpose on why we're doing this and what we're doing. This project was a brainstorming idea to celebrate 50 years of ministry from the 50th anniversary committee. And so that's where it started, and then it just evolved and went along to bring us to the point where we are last Sunday and then today. And it's still evolving in some ways. But I just wanted to, in the spirit of understanding how we do what we do as Shepherd of the Hills, just a couple years ago, we created this values document, and it's been available for everyone for quite a while. And I just want to, it talks about what our foundational values are, how we act with one another, how we treat one another. It talks about faith and the Word, and to protect the unity of the church, responsibility that we're committed to the church, and support the church, that we are here to serve when we're able, and support the church. And this segment about protect, I think, is worth bringing to mind as we have this meeting and really every meeting that we come together as a congregation. It says we protect the unity of our church by acting in love toward other members. So I love what Paul writes, that we should speak the truth in love, but that love would be our underlying reason that we talk. And we know that, Dwayne, he's a volunteer, our counselor volunteers, so many volunteers, and to see the goodwill that we want to exhibit to others. Maybe we disagree on some issues, which we probably do, but to do that in a spirit of love. Also, refusing to gossip is a part of that, and then following and praying for our leadership as they follow Christ. So you all were asked to pray for our council and our leaders as they were installed at the beginning of the year, and to continue to do so, that God would unite us. And so my prayer today is really based around the unity that we could achieve by holding and doing something like this together. And we just want to now open this time with a word of prayer. Will you please pray with me? Lord Jesus, we thank you that you guide and direct us as a church. Lord, that the scriptures lay out the ways that we not only live and the faith that we have to believe in you, but the way we treat one another, that we could value honesty and integrity and respect for others. We thank you that we are your church, and we pray, Jesus, that you would hold us together, help us to find common ground, and always lead us together hand in hand as we follow your mission into the future. Lord, we pray for this time and ask that you could help us to have our questions answered and our concerns raised, and also, Lord, to come to a place where we can find some common ground so that we can do something fantastic for our 50th anniversary. So bless this meeting, and thank you for your word. In Jesus' name, amen.
Thank you, Pastor. I'd like to echo Pastor's comments and thank all of the staff for all of the help they provided for the 50th anniversary project team, and for me, and for all the communication work that they've helped with. So thank you all. I appreciate it. So I hope most of you had a chance to read the email that went out Friday. It didn't come out until about 5 p.m. I know some of you told me this morning you hadn't seen it, but the printout that was handed out this morning is the same thing that was in the Constant Contact email. So if you can look through that. During the past week, we've tried to do some work clarifying and answering questions that came up at the presentation last week. And I want to touch on a couple of the bigger items that came up. First of all, maybe I should start with, there was a suggestion that we vote on two parts. You'd be able to vote on both. In fact, we ask you to vote on both. But one would be the pergola or a shade structure, and the other would be landscaping. So one could pass and not the other, or you can vote yes for both, or you could vote no for both. So the ballot was written to split those two items apart, as was requested last week. The goal for the project, we shared this last week, was really to create a more usable, comfortable outdoor space for use for all of us, and also to upgrade the appearance of the front entry. And one of the things that was suggested as an alternative to the pergola, and this is in that email and in those notes, was possibly doing a retractable motorized awning. So I should start by saying we looked at both the possibility of mounting awnings off of the face of the fellowship hall and also along the eave that you see in the photo on the screen. The fellowship hall, almost as soon as we looked at it, turned out to not be a very good idea because even with the largest ones, they only project 13 feet. And with the planter that runs all along in front of the building, that extends out 4 feet, we'd lose almost a third of the area of the projection, and it just didn't seem feasible at all to come out with an awning over the top of the fellowship hall, over the front of the fellowship hall. But we did get a contractor, All Pro Shade Concepts was in this week. I guess 4 or 5 of us met with them, and they did give us a quote for putting retractable awnings on the eave of the church at the front entrance. Did I bump that ahead? I didn't mean to, sorry. Can I go back one? Looks like you might have to advance them from back there. Okay, this is the slide I wanted to mention. That awning across the front of the church there is about a 60-foot span. So we looked at doing that, asking them how wide were the awnings they made. They go up to 20 feet wide. But they suggested we not go that wide, close. They suggested that we consider putting 3 18-foot wide awnings with a projection of 13 feet. But the very first thing we learned is that the fascia board, it's actually a 2x6, that runs along the face there is insufficient to support the weight and that extension. So they would do it with a roof mount. And that raises some concern because each of the 3 awnings, 18 feet long, would have 5 brackets that have to be bolted to the roof. And there would be 2 more conduit penetrations, a total of 2. So with all those concrete tile up there, roof tile, we'd have to do cutting and then sealing around them. And of course, that's a long, shallow pitch on the roof. We'd have all that water coming down to those anchor points. And so for me, at least, there's a concern about whether or not it would prevent leaks in the long term. They do guarantee their awnings for material, the fabric, for 10 years. It's umbrella fabric. They have 300 different varieties you could choose from, but only 5 years on the motor and only 2 years on workmanship. So any roof leak problems that would result from it would be our responsibility after 2 years, so we'd have to really watch that closely. I should maybe point out, this is typically what they would look like. We probably wouldn't want red, but that awning that was there had that valance along the front. And here you can see there you can see that valance would hang down probably in our case about 12 inches. And now you can go on to the next one. When Eric Van Slyke was here from All Pro Shade Concepts, he said they would come out horizontally, but when I looked at it in further detail, it shows that for a 13-foot projection, there'd be a 2'7" drop out on the end. So even if you start at 10 feet, you'd be down at 6'6" at the bottom of that valance. I think that would detract when it's out from the appearance looking out. I think, what else I gotta say about him? I guess that's it. This shows an item called a cassette. Since they only take wind up to 20 miles an hour, we would have to be certain to always have them retracted. And I'm aware that you can buy devices that measure wind speed and would bring it back automatically. But right in their warranty, they said those can fail. Our warranty doesn't protect. If you're depending on that switch and it doesn't work and they would be ruined in the wind, that would be our responsibility, not theirs. So we would have to be absolutely sure that we always rolled them back so they would never face wind speeds over 20 miles an hour, or the warranty would be no good. The cassette that it retracts into, there's 3 shown there. The largest one on the bottom is closest to what we would have, but you can see the bracket that would hold it to the roof. As I mentioned, there's a total of 15 of those. But that cassette is 12 inches high and 9¼ inches deep. So I just don't feel like it would be very attractive having those all along the front of that eave, and then the valance would hang down at the front to block the sun from hitting the greater part of the awning. And you know there's some risk because one of the first things he said is we can replace the valance separately. So that valance being exposed all the time, I'm sure it fades and probably wouldn't last the full 10 years. Can you advance, please? So to kind of summarize, even these wouldn't be cheap. The quote was actually a little over $25,000, but nominally $25,000. The roof mounted with the 5 brackets. That doesn't include electrical, and in this case, that's somewhat of an issue too, because the existing overhang that we have has a concrete ceiling. It's not just drywall or something, so getting the conduit into that roof and up in 2 different locations. I tried to meet with somebody on Wednesday, or Thursday, didn't work out, but I think it would be a fairly expensive electrical project just to get power to them as well. And the total extension you get once it's mounted on the roof, it's back a little ways, is about 12'6". And as I mentioned, the leak concern and the 2-year warranty. So it's something we can keep on the plate as a possibility, but doesn't look very attractive in terms of comparing it to a pergola like we were recommending. Okay, now to the pergola. We did some work on that too. This is the drawing that we put up last week. Excuse me. It shows a pergola that's fairly long and rectangular. And as I mentioned last week, it's actually 2 bays. And I think all of you here today know that it would be louvered in our proposal. So the louvers could be open. You get more ventilation if it's open, and you could get sunshine in the winter months when it's cooler and you want some sunshine. But we did feel, or got some input, that was too long, 44'6" and 15'6" wide. And no matter which orientation, we thought there might be a better plan. So this one came up. This takes those same 2 bays, is what they call them, and it puts the 2 long sides adjacent. So now instead of having 2 rectangles end to end and getting 44 feet long, now by putting them side by side, you can see it's closer to a square, 22'3" by 31 feet. And I think the staff members especially kind of felt like that would work out better for most of the types of meetings and things like that we might have out there. So although that wasn't an option last week, at this point, I'd say for me personally, I think that's the one I like the best. This slide shows, and you can look when you go outside, in those 4 circles, orange circles, those are 4 cones that were placed where the corners of this pergola would be. That's the one that's closer to being a square. And the orange bar that's superimposed on the front of the fellowship hall just shows about how high it would be relative to that building. So you can still see through underneath the pergola. This kind of does the same thing. It shows the height of that. Won't be directly adjacent to the building. We'd be 13 feet away from that face. Actually, 13 foot away from the base of the planter, so it would be 17 feet away from that face, so it would be away. But again, you can see how high that beam would be relative to the building. And this one is really done to show, by going to that shorter length, it even opens up more visibility to the Stan Hinckley Memorial sculpture that we never did want to block or move. So you can see how far down it would be compared to that. Okay? We've got just some photos here. I don't know, these aren't what we're talking about exactly, but just might help you get an idea of what the pergola would look like. This one shows one with the louvers opened up. And if you just jump through, there's another one that shows open. This is a solid color unit. We'll touch on colors later. This is one with the louvers open again, a two-color option, which we could consider. And finally, another with the louvers closed. We'd have a solid roof to totally block the sun or even block the rain. It was sort of strange for Mary Jo and I, but this picture I took, we were driving home last Sunday after a meeting and all the questions, and maybe Alan and Carolyn have seen this, maybe they haven't, but as I was driving north on Forest, out in Rio Verde, we live in Rio Verde, I looked off to the left and I said, look across the fairway there. There's a pergola over there. Usually I'm kind of aware if there's anything like that that's done in the neighborhood, because you always have to get architectural approval and all that kind of thing, but I had not even noticed it. If that orange square there, you probably wouldn't, there's orange rectangle right there, you probably wouldn't be able to tell, but there is a pergola, kind of similar to what we're talking about, that was put in the backyard of that home. I went and knocked on the door and said, could I go back in your backyard? And this is what I found when we went in the backyard. But it too is completely open. They, of course, don't want to block the golf course fairway. They want to be able to see the activity on the golf course and the beauty of the fairway. But it provides that. They added a kitchen and a TV out there. With the TV on the end, there's a little bit of blocking, but ours would be completely open. If we ever tried to screen, it would be retractable. You see there, they also have, if you back up one, you can see they also have artificial turf that was put down around it. And they too used pavers as stepping stones to go to it. And I'm not positive those are pavers or tile that were put underneath. This one happens to be a lattice roof. If we go ahead with the project and we're unable to raise enough funds, one thing that we could do to lower the cost would be, instead of having the movable roof, which I favor, I really do like it, you can have a lattice roof. And you can see that, depending on the time of day, you'd have a good deal of shade there and some sun with that one. Okay, advance, please. I mentioned colors. This next week, they're going to mail color samples. It's a little hard when you look at a projected image or when you try to copy it on a piece of paper, because the colors aren't that precise. So they're going to send samples of their powder coating directly on the aluminum, like they would build it from. So we'll have actual samples of what it would really look like. Because their goal in all this is to have something that would really blend in, that will look good with the church. So we hope to find colors or color combination, yet to be determined, that will really look nice. And I will say that I appreciate all the comments and suggestions and questions people had, but just this morning there was another one, kind of along the idea of blending in, but there was a suggestion, maybe some colorful pots with ferns around the base, or ideas of hanging plants. So people keep coming up with ideas of what we could do to make this a really attractive feature. But I always remind those folks that we're trying to get enough money raised to build it. We don't right now even have the money in our $200,000 estimate to buy furniture just yet. So, but I do appreciate all the ideas. On the turf, I guess I should just say, you can see it in that write-up you've got, but we did learn that have been situations where Javelina have dug into artificial turf. And they said, you will have matting with artificial turf. You always will. So I might have overstated when I said no more lawn mowing and no more maintenance. That's not exactly true. I think it would be very low maintenance, but they said we should put a maintenance plan in place. We don't want dogs on it, but if there are, it would have to be hosed off and cleaned, and if things like that. Oh, and they suggested that something hardware like this, which you can buy, the green unit there, you can buy on Amazon for about $350. It's a rotary brush. You know, it's not like lawn mowing, but they said if you do see matting occurring, I don't think we'd have much because all of the congregation members use the sidewalk. The school would be there. So if it were really heavily used, they just suggested before it gets all matted down and then double matted that you run the brush across it. So that's what I meant by a maintenance program. Go ahead again. All right, well, we're getting close to ready to vote, but we'll answer questions too. But the estimated cost, we're still saying $200,000. They say that is trying to limit the scope. The shade option is $100,000, and the landscaping is $100,000. It's pretty easy to remember. You'll be able to vote on each one of those, yes or no. All right. You can advance again. Oh, this is just a reminder. I already said this, but there are retractable screens. I'm not talking about awnings now, but I'm talking about screens that can be run down on the sides of the pergola. So if we find that we get into events where the sun is real low and coming in underneath, we could buy screens, retractable screens with a push of a button that would lower on the south side and or the west side. The bid on that was for when we have the two end-to-ends, so $15,400 is the actual bid, but if we go with the square shape, that would change a little bit. I mentioned tables and chairs. Who knows what we would choose there yet, but we don't know. But there'd be money. There's other landscaping that we might want to do. There was a suggestion of a different set of stairs to go up to the fellowship hall, more directly from the pergola. These are not included in the scope, and maybe even some additional seating along that planter. The sound system was checked, and it is functional out there, so I don't anticipate that we would need something in the sound system very quickly. Apparently, you can plug in microphones and speakers. I didn't do that myself, but it is functional. Okay? Well, if the vote is yes for the landscaping and or yes for the pergola or other shade structure, we would kick off the fundraising campaign immediately. If people could bring a check next week or do a Zelle payment. Roger Miller has offered to help, and for some people, many of us probably have RMDs. If you're in a situation where some funding that you would want to give wouldn't come until after the new year, we would just ask that you turn in some kind of a note just to say you pledge to give that and kind of let us know. We'll be looking, of course, at how much we can raise in the next few weeks before we decide exactly what we will do. But so first we've got to decide if we're going to do it at all. That'll be the vote today. And if we do, we'll start a fundraiser. The goal being, of course, $200,000. We do have a $100,000 pledge for landscaping. And I was told it wasn't real clear, but the pledge is if we'd go ahead with the landscaping project, that would be given to Shepherd of the Hills. That pledge has normally been given to other charities. And if we don't go ahead with the project to do the landscaping here, that money would again be given to other charities outside of Shepherd of the Hills. So you should know that too. The last item on that slide, if you'd go back for a second, I would say that goal of February 22nd, well, I guess we can still call it a goal, but there's still so many ideas and things we're going to be looking at that I'm not so sure that's really feasible. And as many of you suggested, we don't want timing to dictate what we want to do longer term. We want to take the time to look at this and do the right thing for our church. So although it still says, like it did last week, goal to be done by February 22nd, that is the anniversary date. That's the day we plan to celebrate. I would say maybe that's questionable, just because there have been lots of good ideas and questions and a lot of things to look at that might delay. Plus, we want to get funding coming in. So by the time we see how many gifts we get toward the project or projects, some time may pass before we can really get started with the vendors. All right? That should look like the ballot you have in your hand. There's 2 items there, and we would like you to vote on both of them. And like I said, you can vote yes for both, no for both, or yes for one and no for the other, whichever combination you'd like. Go ahead. Yes.
Which includes removing 2 trees, removing the lawn, new desert xeriscape, new artificial turf, and paver repair.
All right, is there a second? A second, Art? Are you seconding both, Art? There was actually 2 motions made there, one for the pergola, if you will, and one for the landscape. And are you seconding both of those, Art? All right, so Mary Jo made the motions and Art Jerlicki seconded. So before you do vote, are there other questions or discussion?
First of all, on behalf of everybody, I'd like to give a big thanks to the donor that donated the $100,000 for the landscaping. I just kind of think it's a shame that we're having this vote at this point in time of the calendar year. If you look around, there's maybe 30 people here. We have a big congregation. Many of them are not here. They're snowbirds. They're on travels. So none of them are being considered. Nobody from online vote, people watching online can vote. It's just 30 people here, and it's kind of not a very representation of our congregation, which was to be, I don't know, 300 people.
Just to clarify, when you have special meetings, we have about 160 members. Many of the people that are here in the winter are associate members. They actually can't vote on issues like this. So many of the people that you see when the church is fuller are associate members who wouldn't have voting privileges. And our Constitution says that we're not allowed to have absentee ballots or proxy ballots, so only people that are present. And as far as the number, again, according to the Constitution, we actually just need 15% of our full-time members to reach a quorum. Okay. Elaine? Go.
Just another kind of, I guess I want to say humorous comment. Last Wednesday, I was watching the 6 o'clock news on NBC on TV, and they were interviewing some people at a apartment complex at one of the cities here in the valley. I don't remember which, but in the background was the parking structure behind the apartments, and it was virtually our pergola, extended along behind the apartments for people to park their cars under, I guess 1 per unit. And the issue that they were discussing was the bird droppings, pigeon droppings, nesting, and it was just horrendous. You couldn't even walk across the ground floor of this structure. They ran the camera up and around, there's nests everywhere, and pigeon poop, and they interviewed one of the ladies, and she said, whenever I wash my car, I make sure I park it outside. I can't have it under this structure. So I'm just, there is going to be some maintenance there.
Yeah, you can see that just from our roof. If you look at the cross high on the peak, we have that issue today as well. Yeah. I saw that same video. I guess they were going to look at what they could do to reduce the amount of birds that were there. With the pergola, it would be more washable. It can be cleaned or just sprayed off, but yeah, we certainly want to have that adding to problems. I think Elaine had a question back there.
I'm not quite done yet. I'm sorry. As far as options to the pergola are concerned, Lloyd Tarr has a package of things that, visuals and that he's got on paper that when we get to that point, I think there's other options that can be considered in the fact that this structure is going to be sitting there 365 days of the year, 24/7, and what percentage of that time is it actually going to be put to use? Does it have to be a permanent structure? Can it be more something that can be more easily taken down and put back up as required, or just an open steel structure that can be covered when necessary? I'm just not sure we have the use, the need to have a permanent something sitting there 365 days of the year. I'm done, thank you.
Thanks. I would just respond there. I happened to talk with Lisa Vestuccia. I'm not sure the pronunciation either, but afterwards, and I said, would TIA use something like this for a school, for outdoor groups and classes? And she said, most certainly. They would really like to see it as well. So I think that alone, just that one comment, would make me feel like it would maybe be utilized even more. And the staff here has done a lot of work thinking about what we might do, even going as far as looking at where could a pulpit be positioned out there if we did have small services, weddings, funerals, and things like that. I myself think it would be really nice for Bible studies and other groups that meet outdoors in moderate weather anyway. So, okay, maybe now Elaine.
I'm just unclear about one thing, or maybe a couple, but we have a donation for $100,000, and that is the price of the landscaping. If we don't vote yes, if we vote yes on that, will that be started like tomorrow? Or are you still needing more money coming in to help with the landscaping? Or is the vote a combination that we want to, I'll give you the $100,000 donation for landscaping, but you also have to include the pergola? I mean,
most of the gift is actually going to be a pledge that'll mostly come in after the first of the year. So I would kind of say in general, no, but we feel like there is part of it that's going to be given immediately, and there will be other donations. So we might be able to get started on some things quite soon. We haven't tried to really work out the schedule yet, but first we've got to see how the funds do come in, what is given as cash now, and what is pledged or what might not be available until next year before I can really answer that. But of course, we'd like to start soon. If we go ahead with the pergola portion, and there is funding to do that, that's probably what we would do first. But even there, we would have to remove the tree and the two planters and the seating area that's out there now to do that. But we'd prefer to do the pergola first from a construction standpoint if we could.
so you couldn't do the landscaping first because you still need to be able to consider construction of the pergola, if that would come second.
Yeah, I'd say it could be done, but you might have to hand carry more materials in and things like that. Think of the concrete. Each of those footers to hold 120-mile-an-hour wind is going to be pretty substantial. But there, too, they could hand mix concrete. So it is possible to do it in the other order. But I think it would be preferable to not have to worry about driving over the new turf with a concrete truck or with a load of materials being delivered. So doing the pergola first would be good. I think we could figure out a way to do it, though, if we went ahead with the landscaping first as well. We'll have to work more on that. Art? Well, I can repeat it. Art was asking about the cost of watering the grass. It's varied so much. Debbie and Roger looked up the bills, and we've had bills as high as $1,800 for 1 month for water. That probably was during overseeding or maybe with a leak or maybe both. Typically, the water bills are much less. I think we're down more around $1,000 now. We did a calculation, Arn and Dan, drawing a blank. Arn and Dan did a measurement of the water flow, though, the way it was set just earlier this summer, and we were using 27,000 gallons a month. That would equate to about $2,500 a year. So I've heard a lot of people throw out different numbers, but go ahead, Debbie.
Wayne, I just wanted you to know that the water has, for the last couple of months, have been consistently down in the 400s.
Well, that's because it's shut off right now. There was a leak out there, the water was turned off. So that gives you some idea of how much lower it will be ongoing without that lawn.
Dwayne,
Yes,
would that cost be eliminated, or would it be less, or?
gone. When the lawn is gone, all of that watering, at the time it was measured, it was 47% of the water usage by the entire church and the school, everything. 47% of that just went to the grass. So it would be gone with this project. There will be no more grass.
So if you needed some extra money for maintenance of the pergola, it could be obtained because you're eliminating a water bill.
That's true. There should be some savings from that.
I just wanted to point out that the new idea of having both bays side by side and creating a more square-like structure, the placement of that would be basically exactly where the shade tree is now and all the little benches are. So that structure would be replaced then by the pergola.
Yeah, I should have mentioned that earlier. If you go out there about this time of day, the shade from that big tree that's there, that'll be gone. Kind of covers the same area that this pergola would be if we went to the new shape. So you can get some idea. That canopy of that tree would be about the same kind of coverage as the pergola would provide in the way of shade. Are you ready to vote? Oh, go ahead.
I was looking at the what we proposed last week and did this week, and it still looks to me like it's something that doesn't fit our architecture of the church. When I saw your picture from the one out in Rio Verde, they had cement or plaster halfway up those pillars. If we do something like that and have it stucco to match the rest of the church, it would fit a lot better. It wouldn't look like an afterthought and be much better. The other thing, how many quotes did we get for this? We've never done a project this big without several quotes. I'm just curious if we got other quotes on this.
We had 3 vendors. One of them we didn't go as far as a quote because they really do kits. They wanted us to do it, actually do the assembly or hire our own contractor. They wanted us to get the permitting done. And the other vendor was a little bit higher cost. So we did 3. I will say that one of them we dropped out before we got as far as the price because it wasn't really comparable. I like that idea too of maybe doing something around the base, and that goes to Barbara's idea. I don't know if she's still here, but there were just people that have a lot of good ideas of what we could do. Some of those we got to be careful though because there'd be some cost, but I think that too could make it blend in better. I do feel like the openness of the structure would still allow you to see the church architecture as it is today. And if we can do some things with plants or hanging baskets or something like that, I think that would do even more to make it blend in and look attractive and be a very functional outdoor usable space.
Thank you.
Any more votes? Or any more questions? All right. Why don't you go ahead and let's vote. Remember to vote on both. Just circle your answer, yes or no, for each part of the project. And then Sonia and Debbie have agreed to be tellers, so they will do the count. Yeah, why don't you do that? Pass them into the aisles so they can just come down the aisle and collect them. While you're turning in your ballots, I kind of failed to thank all of the people that are on the project team that have been working on this, and for all of Pam's larger anniversary planning team. I think she had about a dozen or maybe even more, maybe 15 people at the meeting last week. But if others of you would like to help in any way, I'm sure that Pam would take volunteers to help with the planning, the food. They have all kinds of good ideas as to what we'll do that day. So it could be anything from organizing some games or setting up tables to we're going to have a 50 days in advance where we share fun facts about the church and so forth. So there's all kinds of great ideas, but we need help there too to implement that. But thanks to everybody on that committee and everybody on the project team as well. Yeah, that works well, Roger. Thanks. I don't know, I can't count everybody, but I think we must have more than 40 people here, maybe 40 or 45. How many? 66? Oh, that's good. So we got a pretty good number. They'll be able to count the ballots, Dave. It would be nice to do it, but during the winter when we have more people here, but like I say, many of those people aren't really eligible to vote because our Constitution requires you to be a full-time member to vote at annual meetings and things like that. So Mary Jo, this is probably a good time for your tap dance if you want to come up and do a little dance while we wait. That's a good idea. Pam, would you be willing to do that? Just come up here and kind of ad lib and just, I know you weren't prepared to do this, but talk a little bit about what some of the other committees are and just briefly what some of the plans are while we wait. That'd be great.
Yes, you can. Well, we have met a couple of times on the committee, and we've had a few more people that have joined us. We have a number of subcommittees, one being, of course, Lutheran food and dessert. And we have a decoration committee, and also we are going to have some games, and so get ready and to sign up for different activities that we'll have out on the lawn. We were thinking of bocce ball, ladder golf, maybe badminton, what else? Those are 3. Cornhole. So there's a number of different, hopefully we can get some tournaments going. So just a fun afternoon. We will have a church service where we are going to invite past pastors to come and join in on the service. So we are planning that portion. Also, we are doing the 50 days prior, and we will be soon sending out a letter to you to ask for your prayers for the day, but also comments of fun things that have happened to you in the congregation, something that was exciting that happened here, or if you want to share a picture, send that to me. I have a lot of pictures to go through. We just want to present a slideshow of different events and activities that have happened through the years. We do have a video of the 40th anniversary, and so we'll be taking clips from that to add to it. So that will be happening. So we have a lot of different activities, and we'd love anyone else that would like to be on the committee. Just send me an email.
Thanks, Pam. It sounds like it'll be a fun day. Looking forward to it. Anybody else think of any other questions you have burning while you wait for the votes to come in? Roger? Well, that topic has come up. Depending on what we do for pavers, any of the pavers that are taken out there that are not used for the sidewalk that would go up to the parking area, there was talk of saving those. And that has been a discussion point as a future project, Roger, but there's been no firm scope at all, no real plan. It would be nice to be able to utilize that space more than we do today. I don't know if all of you know that, but there's I don't know, in one of the storage room back there, there's this huge grill, and there's a big propane tank out and back. That's never been used in the years that Mary Jo and I have been here, so I never saw it. But anyway, there is some space behind the fellowship hall that would be nice. Other ideas that came up around that would be to have large glass doors that maybe could be opened to make it feel a little bit more a part of the fellowship hall, that type of thing. But in thinking about ideas like that, or new doors on the front side of the fellowship hall, we kind of focused more on the pergola and thought that would be more usable and more valuable to us as we move ahead. Did you get the count? I saw Debbie come back in.
Yep, we do have the count. For the pergola vote, we have 20 as no. We have 49 as yes. For the landscape, we have 1 as no. We have 68 as yes.
All right, well, thank you. It sounds like both have passed. That's wonderful. It sounds like the landscape's overwhelmingly passed, so. Anything else? Yeah. Now that really helps. It gives us some direction. The next step, like I said, is going to be the hard part, though, and that's coming up with funds. So we hope all of you, as you leave today, will be thinking about what you could contribute. And this would be outside of the normal budget. It's one-time donations specifically for this 50th anniversary project. And if you feel like you can't right now, but you will be able to in the near term, we would take pledges as well, so we know what we can expect. Is there a motion to adjourn? Motion to close. Second? John and Pam. All in favor? Thank you, everybody.